Mia sat on the living room carpet arranging Christmas ornaments, her tiny pink mittens clutching a star decoration as she hummed a Christmas carol she'd learned at preschool. She was almost 5, her bright eyes shining behind her glasses, completely unaware that the stack of leather folders on the coffee table held secrets that could shatter our peaceful life. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a text from Tyler, urging me to meet him at Starbucks tomorrow, his tone dripping with impatience, just like that icy morning 4 years ago, when he told me over the phone to stop being so dramatic. 4 years ago, the day Eli died, the temperature in Charlotte dropped to 2 degrees below zero, with a thin layer of black ice coating the highways. He was an architectural designer, heading to a job site in the suburbs for a walkthrough, and had left before dawn to beat the morning rush. When I woke up, the spot next to me in bed was still warm. His half-finished coffee sat on the kitchen counter, and his heavy coat lay draped over the couch. I rested my hand on my 7-month pregnant belly, already planning to make his favorite baked ziti for dinner, never imagining it would be our last goodbye. Shortly after 6 a.m., an unknown number called. The dispatcher's voice was cruelly calm, telling me Ellie's car had lost control near the Huntersville exit on Highway 77, struck the median barrier, and was being rushed to the hospital. I don't remember getting dressed or driving there. The only thought in my head was that he'd forgotten his coat and would be cold. But by the time I reached the hospital, all I saw was the doctor's regretful expression. He said the internal injuries from the crash were too severe. They'd done everything they could. 3 hours after Eli passed away, I went into labor and had Mia via emergency C-section. She weighed just 2 pounds 3 ounces, smaller than the palm of my hand, hooked up to tubes, lying quietly in an incubator in the neonatal intensive care unit. Her cries so faint they were barely audible. The doctors told me she would need at least 8 weeks of specialized care, costing nearly $10,000 a day. Ellie's insurance had an annual payout cap of $300,000. After deducting my surgical fees, the hospital demanded I pay $42,000 within 4 days, or they would transfer her to a hospital in Chapel Hill, 200 miles away, one with no doctors familiar with her condition, and too far for me to visit between my part-time shifts at the hospital cafeteria. I panicked and begged for help. I called Dennis and Marilyn dozens of times, 39 calls over 2 days, most going unanswered. When they did pick up, Marilyn would only say she'd talk it over with your dad before hanging up abruptly. I even started a GoFundMe, but it only raised a little over $3,000 in a few days, nowhere near enough. Ellie's parents, who lived in Florida, emptied their savings and sent me $2,500, but it wasn't even enough for 1 day of care. Tyler finally called me back. I was sitting on a bench outside the NICU, staring at Mia's fragile breathing through the incubator, clutching a crumpled bill. His voice was impatient, with a woman's laughter in the background. He said my parents were about to leave for a vacation in Hawaii, a retirement trip they'd planned for a year, with a $7,000 non-refundable deposit. "Don't be so unreasonable," he said. "Ellie's life insurance will come through soon. Just wait it out. Mia will be fine. There's no need for Mom and Dad to give up their trip to help you." I held the phone, freezing to the bone. I told him Mia's oxygen levels kept dropping, that the doctors said she might not make it through the week without the money, but he only called me overreacting, saying, "All NICU babies are like this. She'll tough it out." Before hanging up, I heard him tell someone nearby, "Ignore her. She's just being ridiculous." That night, Marilyn sent me a single text, "Stop calling. You're putting us in a terrible position." I didn't give up. I sold Ellie's car, our wedding rings, everything valuable in the house. I took a part-time job at the hospital cafeteria, waking up at 4 a.m. every day to clean dishes and restock supplies, earning minimum wage just to stay close to Mia. Luckily, the Preemie Angel Fund approved a $17,000 grant, and Medicaid came through. We barely scraped by. Mia spent 89 days in the NICU before she could come home, by then weighing just over 5 pounds. She still needed oxygen and physical therapy, but she was alive, my only hope. When Ellie's life insurance payout arrived, I used part of it to pay off our debts and bought a small 2-bedroom apartment, saving the rest for Mia's medical and educational expenses. I got a job as a medical coder, starting at $38,000 a year and working my way up to $55,000. I spent my days buried in insurance forms and medical codes. Ironically, Dennis had worked in real estate development for 40 years, dealing with money his entire life. Yet he'd chosen a vacation over helping me when I needed it most. For 4 years, I cut off all contact with Dennis, Marilyn, and Tyler. I blocked their numbers and social media accounts, never asking about them. When Mia asked about her grandparents, I only told her that Daddy's parents lived far away and loved her very much. I thought our life would stay peaceful, that I would watch Mia grow up and she would help me heal, that the betrayal and coldness would fade with time. Then last month, an unknown number with a Scottsdale area code called. I hesitated before answering. It was Tyler, his voice deeper than 4 years ago, but still condescending. Clara, Mom and Dad were in a car accident. They didn't make it. I held the phone. No tears, no grief, only numbness. The way they'd abandoned me all those years had built a wall around my heart. Their life or death no longer felt like my business. Tyler said he was flying to see me to discuss the estate. I wanted to refuse, but he said, "You have a right to know." His voice tinged with unease. Friday morning, I dropped Mia off at preschool and headed to the Starbucks we'd agreed on. Tyler was already waiting in the corner, wearing an expensive suit, a thick leather folder in front of him. He looked tired, yet his selfishness still showed through. He slid a document across the table, telling me Dennis and Marilyn's estate was worth $1,750,000. Including their Scottsdale home, retirement accounts, and investment portfolio. Mom and Dad didn't leave a valid, formal will, he said. Under North Carolina intestacy law, you and I split it equally $875,000 each. I stared at the number, feeling nothing. I don't want it, I said calmly. I don't want a single penny of their things. Tyler froze, then frowned in irritation. Clara, don't be stupid. That's $875,000. It's enough for Mia's college fund, all her medical bills. You won't have to struggle anymore. When I still refused, he finally pulled out another document dated April 2021, stating that everything would go to Tyler, cutting me out entirely. The reason given: our daughter has acted unreasonably and severed all ties voluntarily. This will was never filed with an attorney, Tyler said, his voice lowering. Sign this waiver of inheritance, and I won't submit it. We'll go our separate ways, and no one has to know what happened 4 years ago. I picked up the will, my fingers going cold. April 2021 was the day after I received Ellie's life insurance. Dennis had drawn up this will then, specifically labeling me unreasonable. When I stayed silent, Tyler added, before they died, Mom and Dad took out a $500,000 life insurance policy, with me as the beneficiary. I already collected the payout. Clara, don't force my hand. If you don't sign, I'll file this will and tell everyone you cut off your own family, that you're ungrateful. In that moment, 4 years of hurt and anger erupted. I thought of that freezing winter, crying alone outside the NICU, of the heartache of selling my wedding ring, of working late shifts at the cafeteria, exhausted, while Dennis and Marilyn soaked up the sun on a Hawaiian beach, texting me to call me selfish and unreasonable. Tyler knew everything, yet he'd stood by them. And now, after their death, He tried to threaten me into giving up what was rightfully mine. I'm not signing, I said, pushing the waiver back to him, my voice steady. I'm hiring a lawyer to contest this will. I have the old call logs, text messages, hospital bills, and GoFundMe records. I can prove they abandoned Mia and me, that they were the ones who cut off contact, not me. Tyler's face drained of color. He hadn't expected me to fight back, and his tone softened. Clara, we can work something out. I'll give you $200,000. Just drop this, okay? Lawsuits are expensive and time-consuming. You have Mia to take care of. It's not worth it. I'm not doing this for the money, I said, looking him in the eye. I'm doing it for justice. They chose a vacation over Mia's life, and now they want to erase that with a will and call me ungrateful. I won't let them. I want Mia to know her mother wasn't pushed around. I want them to know betrayal and coldness come with a price. I walked out of Starbucks into bright sunlight and took a deep breath. No fear, only relief. All these years I'd thought I was alone, but when I looked at a photo Mia's teacher had sent me, her smile bright, I knew I wasn't. I'd already hired a lawyer. The lawsuit would be long, might drain my savings, might force me to relive the pain, but I had no regrets. That night, Mia curled up in my arms, wrapped her arms around my neck, and asked, Mommy, are we gonna be rich? I stroked her hair softly. Honey, rich or not, as long as we're together, we have nothing to fear. Mommy will protect you, and I'll make sure you know kindness and courage matter more than money. The court date was set for January. I didn't know how it would end, whether I'd win or lose, but I knew I'd made the right choice. Dennis and Marilyn thought they could erase their mistakes with money and a will. Tyler thought he could threaten me into backing down, but they didn't understand. A mother fighting for her child is unstoppable. I haven't forgotten the cold and despair of 4 years ago, or the rejected pleas and cruel silence. But I no longer let the pain trap me. I work hard, care for Mia, and have built a circle of loving friends, my new family. Whether I get the inheritance or not, I've already won. I won against myself, against the people who hurt me. With my own strength, I gave Mia a warm home and became my own light.